Hi, I'm Ellis George, play Courtney Woods, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast.
The tangents and squee continue all the way to episode number 38 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You know, like we were saying about the Earth revolving, it's like when you're a kid, the first time they tell you that the world's turning and you just can't quite believe it because everything looks like it's standing still. I can feel it. The turn of the Earth. The ground beneath our feet is spinning at 1,000 miles an hour and the entire planet is hurtling around the sun at 67,000 miles an hour, and I can feel it. We're falling through space, you and me, clinging to the skin of this tiny little world, and if we let go, that's who I am. Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we do every week by going around the virtual table and see who has joined us this week. Did we lose Brittany?
Brittany. She's still, her little thing's still on my screen.
These are the types. There she is. Hey, Brittany! We thought she got sucked in the vortex.
Alright, okay, let me say that again. This is Brittany in Fort Pierce.
This is Chrissy in Delta, Utah.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
This is Mitch
And Mikayla
in Kitchener, Ontario.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Hello, everyone. Brittany is sick, so we're just going to chalk it up to that.
We love you, Britt.
Somehow we managed to give her all the gunk we had last week over the internet. Not quite sure how, but we did.
I never thought I would believe it happening, but apparently
It did.
Okay,
so we're just that good. So, and we're all here, plus one. So, yay, we have a guest.
Yay!
So we have a friend of Mitch's here. If you want to introduce yourself to our listeners a little better.
Okay, I'm Mikayla. I'm from the Web of Queer podcast. I met met her at the Kitchener Comic-Con, but I saw her panel at Galley, which is how we came in contact, and came on to talk about Doctor Who.
Yep. Well, we're glad you're here. It's always fun to have
Web of
visitors.
Queer, for those who aren't familiar with it, is a Doctor Who podcast with all members of the queer community. Yeah. So,
Well, welcome. And awesome
we try to
have you.
tackle Doctor Who from a queer perspective.
Very cool. Oh. Very cool. And we'll you on you have a website somewhere or a Facebook page or
We have a website.
Okay. So we'll post a link to that in our show notes so people can find you and check you out. So, but we're glad you're here.
Yes, thank you.
So excited to discuss fun things this week. So let's jump straight into news.
All right, Fox is bringing back the X-Files. Woohoo! 13 years after its original run, the sci-fi series is making its comeback with a 6-episode event series from creator, executive producer Chris Carter. Stars David Duchovny and Gillian Anderson will reprise their roles as FBI agents Fox Mulder and Dana Scully. I think of it as a 13-year commercial break, said Carter. The good news is the world has only gotten that much stranger. A perfect time to tell these 6 stories. The series is set to start production in summer 2015, but an air date has not yet been set. I have to say I'm kind of looking forward to this one. I can't wait to see what kind of 6 stories they're going to be telling.
I can't believe it's been 13 years since.
That too.
I remember watching the finale.
Mm-hmm.
Has it really been that long?
Because I can remember I started watching season 3, so then I had and this was before you could find, Netflix and Hulu, the other series, so I was trying to play catch up and find people who had taped the first 2 seasons on VHS and see if they could lend me to catch up.
Yeah.
Because I was able to.
I saw a screenshot of Jillian's Twitter, and she's like, yo Fox or yo Mulder, are you ready? And David Duchovny tweeted back, he's like, I'm ready. So that's exciting.
And it'll probably end up being on Hulu or Netflix or something.
Probably.
Kind of reminds me of when they had 24 Live Another Day last summer, and I'm like, I'm watching this on the internet. Where when 24 started, I had to get caught up with the DVDs and everything. Not quite as strenuous as trying to track down the first 2 seasons taped on VHS.
Yeah.
But still, it's like how much has changed in the time that all these shows have been on, and then they reboot them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm actually watching this on the internet. Same with Sailor Moon. I'm watching that on Hulu.
Yeah.
Well, I remember my parents sending me to bed so they could watch the X-Files.
Yeah, it wasn't a child-friendly television show.
No, not necessarily. That's probably why I didn't watch it. But
Yeah.
I watched it when it was on Friday nights,
get it.
so that way I could stay up late. But when they switched to Sundays, it's like, oh man, I got school in the morning. It's too late.
Now you're an adult. You can stay up as long as you want.
Exactly.
You will hate yourself in the morning for staying up as late as you want, but you can do it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Alrighty. So, up next, not that this is really any shock if you saw any of the pictures that people were posting on the internet while they were filming, but Stephen Moffat has confirmed that the Sherlock special is going to take place in Victorian London. Moffat told Entertainment Weekly that the special is its own thing. We wouldn't have done this story we're doing, and the way we're doing it, if we didn't have the special. It's not part of the run of 3 episodes, so we had this to do it. As we could hardly conceal, it's Victorian. Mark Gatiss and me, we wanted to do this, but it had to be a special. It had to be a separate entity on its own. It's kind of in its own little bubble, which is about as vague as Moffat can get, I think. But I mean, if she somehow managed to avoid any of the setlock pictures, as they were calling it, then this is probably a surprise. But for those of us that were pictures, it was pretty stinking obvious. It was either going to be a period piece or they were in fancy dress. It was one of the two.
Okay. Yeah. And we were all going, what the crap is going on here? And now we know. It's like, oh, it's its own little bubble universe of Sherlock.
Yeah.
I wonder, part of me wonders, like,
care.
is this like a
I
dream
don't
sequence?
like BBC Sherlock.
Yeah.
That could be.
It could be. I mean, there's so many things that it could be. It could be like a dream sequence. It could be what if Sherlock and Watson had met in a different era, had lived in a different time and still met and became, crime detective,
It's kind of like when you have AU fanfic.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, I think of Once Upon a Time, they have AU fanfic where Killian is, the naval captain, and Emma grew up as a princess, and they meet anyway and fall in love, and so it's like, it's sort of that same sort of thing.
Yeah.
Same characters, different scenario, same thing basically happens, just in a different setting.
Yeah. So.
Which should be cool.
Yeah. But Moffat said the special is pretty much done, and he's very happy with it. There's no air date. But most people are expecting it to air sometime in December. So we may be getting Sherlock for Christmas, which would be a nice Christmas present. So, alrighty then. So, moving on.
Masuoka is to reprise his role as Hiro Nakamura in NBC's Heroes Reborn reboot. So, with the exception of Jack Coleman returning as Noah Bennett, every casting announcement for NBC's Heroes sequel series, Heroes Reborn, has been for a new character. But it looks like we'll be seeing another familiar face. Today it was announced that Masuoka will be back as Hiro Nakamura. I'm excited to return to my Heroes roots, Aoka. Hiro was such an inspirational role to play, and I'm hoping the fans will enjoy seeing him back on TV. Hiro, who had the ability to travel back and forth in time and space, was a main character on all 4 seasons of the original Heroes series, and he had a habit of affecting the cast more than he should have, and usually more than he realized. The Heroes Reborn 13-episode event will premiere on NBC this fall, with an online prequel series debuting shortly beforehand.
All I have to say is, yay. You can't do, I don't care who they get, you can't do Heroes without Hero. I'm sorry. You can get HRG, you can get Claire, you can get Peter, but until Hero shows up, it ain't Heroes. I'm partial. He's my favorite.
And the announcement is interestingly timed with the 10-year anniversary of New Who.
Yeah.
Oh,
considering Hero's abilities.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It occurred to me as I was reading the blurb that, hang on.
Time and space.
Traveler.
Yeah.
So,
They
especially
planned
since it showed up in our news on the episode where we're talking about the return of Doctor Who.
Yeah. We planned it that way, really.
I'm trying to remember if there was ever any Doctor Who references in Heroes. It's been so long since I've watched it. I bet you there were.
There was one about regenerating in the first season.
Yeah.
Like, Peter said, if I hadn't regenerated, I'd be dead. And he was talking to Christopher Eccleston's character, so...
There you go.
That was taken as a reference by fans of both shows, so...
I'll take it. I'll allow it.
This show is still on my to-watch list, I'm afraid.
Oh, I've got a lot of those, too.
Well, I'm hoping the cable company I have, they do this thing called Watch-a-thon, where 1 week, which is in 2 weeks, they put a lot of shows, you do all the seasons and put them for free. So I'm hoping Heroes might be, and I'm thinking because of this reboot, maybe, so I have to keep an eye on that and be able to watch all. Well, it's going to be this fall, so yay!
Yay!
And maybe it'll be structured. Maybe it'll be structured in such a way that
before it was canceled.
Yeah, I'm kind of hoping it'll be structured in such a way that people who've never watched it will be able to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's been off for a while, so hopefully they're taking that into account.
I'm sure they are. I mean, if they want it to be successful, they probably ought to.
Yeah.
So
anyway, that's all speculation. But you know, we do that anyway.
Yeah.
We'll talk more as it gets closer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure we will.
For sure.
Okay. All right. So, in our last bit of news, hot on the heels of last week's, I think we announced this last week, of Big Finish and their 200th main range.
My wallet is still crying.
Big Finish announced this week that their license has been extended to 2020, which I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's so far in the future. No, it's only 5 years away, which kind of freaks me out. But
yeah, I renewed my health card this year, and it's good, and my new one's good till 2020.
Nice.
I know. It was like when you realize that your driver's license was renewed through past 2000, and you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Actually, now that I think about it, I didn't get my driver's license until 2001. Anyway, I'm moving on. Okay, Big Finish.
I wasn't even thinking of driving in 2000.
We know, Brittany, we know.
Their license is extended till 31st of March 2020. That means another 5 years of classic Doctors, Companions, and Enemies. And if you know Big Finish's extensive library of Doctor Who spin-offs, and oh my gosh, I look at it and my wallet weeps. But I'm glad they're getting their license extended because they're awesome. And just a few quotes from some of the powers that be at Big Finish. First off, executive producer Jason Haig-Ellery says, last year saw Big Finish celebrate 15 years of producing new Doctor Who audio drama, a fantastic milestone for our company. I am delighted to be able to announce our license has been extended through 2020. We're very much looking forward to producing at least another 5 years of adventures with the Doctor and his companions as we help them fight Daleks, Cybermen, and Vord across the universe. and executive producer Nicholas Briggs adds, working with the Big Finish team on the BBC and our beloved Doctor Who is a true privilege. We're so glad to be able to be continuing the adventures well past the 15-year landmark, and it is well deserved. And I just real quick want to point listeners to our brother podcast, Traveling the Vortex, last week. They had an excellent episode talking about the wilderness years of Doctor Who, and they had an extensive discussion about Big Finish and kind of how it came to be and everything, and just how they started out from very humble beginnings. And also there's a documentary, and my brain cannot remember which one it's on, but it was like one of the new special edition Doctor Who DVDs that came out during 2013, and they had there was a documentary series called The Doctor Forever, and one of them dealt with Big Finish, and they talked to Russell T Davies, who when they were rebooting Doctor Who, and Big Finish was kind of worried that they were going to lose a license because of Doctor Who, but because Russell T Davies was such a huge fan, he at the meeting, to start all this, he leaned across the table, to stop one of the BBC, I don't remember if it was a lawyer or some executive, and because they were looking at it like, well, what's this Big Finish? And Russell T Davies leaned over the table and says, "Don't worry, I'll take care of that." And so Big Finish was allowed to continue even after Doctor Who got rebooted, and I just love that story. So, Big Finish has had their 15-year, anniversary of doing Doctor Who, and now they're going to be continuing into, way past, well past their 20th, so it's going to be awesome. So yay, Big Finish, and take all my money.
Yeah.
Get it anyway.
Shut up and take my money.
Yeah. They keep making good stuff, so stuff I'd rather have than my money, apparently.
Yep.
Absolutely.
They announced the next 8th Doctor series, the Doom Coalition.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And that looks really interesting. But I need to finish Dark Eyes first, because I haven't ordered Dark Eyes 4 yet. So.
Yeah, I still need to listen to Dark Eyes too. I haven't.
Well, I've listened to the end of Dark Eyes 3, but that's probably not going to happen for a while with my finances.
Yeah.
They are.
Oh, yeah. I haven't listened to the first one.
It's like we said last week, Big Finish makes our wallets cry, but I just tell my wallet to suck it up and put on its big boy shorts.
And there's another. I listened to the Gallifrey audios that I got at Galley.
Mm-hmm.
And it ended on a cliffhanger, and I cannot afford the next season
now.
And it's like, oh.
That's awful.
That's just mean.
That's terrible. Man, what a way to make you spend money. Guilt trip, man.
Seriously.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for news. Proper news. As we mentioned last week, that I was invited to go hang out at Who North America, and I did that earlier today. And first off, big thank you to everyone at Who North America, especially Keith and Janie who own it and operate it, and Tom, who is one of their other partners in crime, and then all of their volunteers that come in and help them run the shop when it's open to the public. You all are just the nicest group of people, and I'm so glad and honored and privileged that you gave me this opportunity to come and hang out at the shop. I mean, I had to come hang out at the shop anyway, just because it's a fun place to hang out. But the fact that you they were so nice. I got there about 12:30, so about a half an hour before they were supposed to open to the public. And they had set up a table with a tablecloth and like a power strip, so I had a place to plug in my stuff. and they put me in the room that is normally their screening room. They have a pull-down screen and a projector and sound and all that. And normally they're showing episodes of Doctor Who in there, and people can just come and go as they please. They got couches and stuff that people can sit on. But they let me take over the room and use that to talk to people. And so I was... they could shut the door to help minimize the sound and all. So I set up with my computer and my little recording device, and they would just grab people as guests came into the shop. And Janie, God love her, she was, they tried to pick people that they thought would be good for interviews. But Janie would just like grab people like, you want to be on the podcast? Come with me. And they'd be like, what? And she'd be pushing them in the room like, go talk to Rachel. She'll, come be on her podcast. It was hilarious. But everybody I talked to was so nice. It was funny because I talked to like 20 something people throughout the 4.5 hours that they were open. And I got to talk to old, young, new, fairly new fans, people have been watching since like the 70s. When the show first started showing on like their local PBS station. People that discovered Who from different sources. People with favorite doctors. I mean, it's a good number. Everybody was a fan, but just to see the variety of the fandom and just really realize just how big and diverse the Who fandom is, and just how awesome that is, that this show has resonated with not just so many people as far as numbers, but the variety of people, from grandparents to grandkids, and some they're all coming to it with their own way of thinking and their life and whatever, but this show has connected with them in a way, and it becomes part of the larger tapestry that is the Who fandom. And it was just, I was amazed and so honored to be able to just talk to a small number of the millions and millions of fans that Doctor Who has. Some people, I probably could have talked to them for hours just because they were so enthusiastic and just were so excited to share their love for this show. And then some of them were a bit more shy and didn't want to talk as much, but that's fine. I had this little girl that she's 5, and she really likes the Doctor with the bow tie and the old one. Her favorites are the one with the bow tie and the old one, which according to her dad is Peter Capaldi. Nice. Because as far as she's concerned, he's the old one. And just there were several people that were that they had known about Who North America and were regulars at the shop and at conventions and knew the staff and everyone on a first name basis. And some of them, it was their first time there. One of the last couples I talked to, they're from Indiana, from northern Indiana. But they were on their way home from vacation in Florida. They just spent the week in Florida on vacation, called, asked if there was an open house, and Janie was like, yeah, we're supposed to close at 5. And they're like, we will try to be there. They, on their way home from vacation, they'd never been at the store before, but they wanted to visit. And Janie was like, okay, well, we'll be here. And they ended up arriving a little after 5, but they kept the store open knowing that they were coming.
Aww.
So it was so, so cool. And those are the type of people that Keith and Janie are. They're so nice. And they work so hard. And, that's the biggest reason why I've been such a proponent, when they have their Kickstarter going to try and get the word out now. Now they've got their GoFundMe going, trying to help, ease the burden of the financial undertaking that they're going to have to move the shop to a different property. But they so deserve it. I talked to Keith. I have a nice little short interview I did with Keith that I think I'll tack on the end of this episode here. If not, I'll put it up as its own thing. And then the interviews I did with everyone else, those will go up on our YouTube as a separate, kind of side thing. Just so, if people just want to listen to that, they can without having to listen to a full episode. And because there's just so many people I talk to. But Keith started the shop, as a fan. And, he told me that, they want it to be more than just a place where people can buy Doctor Who merchandise. He wants it to be a place where Whovians can come and talk to each other and share stories and share photos and just hang out and, connect over this thing that is, that they all have in common. And I totally saw that today. And like I've said, my face hurts from talking and smiling and laughing with all the people that I talk to. So, I had so much fun, and, I passed out cards, our business cards to people. So hopefully, some of the people I talk to, you're listening to this, and thank you. Yeah. Thank you for stopping by and talking to me, and hopefully you enjoy here, what we do here. And you stick around to, listen to what else we have to say. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
last weekend when I was at Toronto Comic Con, I started handing out business cards to people who took my picture when I was in cosplay.
Yeah.
So to those people, if any of them are listening,
welcome. Hello. Hi, welcome.
Hello. And anyone who may have gotten our business card from the Doctor Who Society of Canada booth, welcome.
Yes.
Because I put I had them put some of the business cards I had in there, because they had a bunch of business cards and whatnot.
Yeah.
And mine was, for the podcast, was among those, so I think some people took business cards, so yay.
If you're listening, hi.
Hi.
Always good to have new folk on.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
train. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah. We know what you're saying. That's all that matters. So, but yeah. So that was my day today. So it was just a lot of fun, and like I said, I can't thank Keith and Janie for this opportunity enough. And as I was leaving, I said, I told Janie, I said, I would say, let's do this again soon, but I'm pretty sure that I'm going to need a couple months for my jaw to recuperate. So it'll probably be something we do again down the road. But at the very least, you'll probably find me at the shop, during the next open house, hanging out, if anything else. So just because it's a fun place to be. It was like Cheers. That's what I told some of the people. It's like, some of y'all people that are obviously regulars, it's like Cheers. You just come in and it's like Norm, So. So that was fun. So, and then of course, the time goes on. We have some housekeeping, like we mentioned last week. We're well into Marvel with Friends and getting very close to the finish here. So coming up this next Saturday, April 4th, we will be doing Thor: The Dark World. So if you need your Loki fix, here's your opportunity. If you need your Thor fix, here you go. So we will be doing that 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. # Marvel with Friends. # probably Thor: Dark World. It will probably be what most of us will be using. So there's that. And then also looking at the calendar, the month of March is almost over, and that means that it's time for another photo challenge.
Yep.
Yay! I'm going to try and participate in this one.
Yeah. We
And
held a
when I
vote.
saw 90s, I was just like, oh my gosh, there's just so much. So I kind of step back and let everybody else do the thing.
And with each post, you went, I remember that.
Yep. Although I thought of a few last night that I was like, that would have been a good one. It was sports related, so.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No.
Anyway, what is April's photo challenge? Hey. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, sorry. I was having technical issues. Sorry.
Yeah. It happens.
April's photo challenge is going to be the ABCs of animation, which we've decided on to be like any form of animation, even if it's only like, I don't know the technical term, but when it's combined with live action, like Who Framed Roger Rabbit and those
Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins, yes.
Yeah.
I know there should be a technical term, but I don't know it.
I'm sure there is too, but I don't know what it is. So.
Anyway, animation in any form.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
So.
Well, the 90s was overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be TV shows, movies, music videos. It can be just characters in general, as long as they're animated, hand drawn, computer. So like Pixar, claymation, stop motion. We decided that was included. This was a consensus vote on the photo challenge. So.
Yep.
We had a small forum, and that's what we decided. So, so that should be fun. I've already got a mental list going of ones I want to use, so I'm excited for this one.
Yeah, I have some, and then I have some backed up because I try not to repeat.
We repeat anyway. There were several times where I think Holly and I would post about the same time, and it would be like the same thing. But it was like a different picture, but it was still the same thing. So
I think that happened with the Once Upon a Time photo challenge.
Yeah.
There were a few that were like, well, there really wasn't much option.
Yeah. I was just saying, sometimes you don't really no choice because there's only like one option. Just hopefully we all got different.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. This one, I think there's enough variety we can come up with.
Yeah.
Thanks.
As long as it's animated, it counts. That's all you need to know. No.
But this, I don't know if I said it, but this all starts Wednesday, April 1st.
Yes.
Right? Got the day right? Yep.
Yes.
So.
As scary as that is. So, and of course, new month also means new book. And the book for April is going to be
Blood Cell. That we got a tie for the March book, and I decided with the coin flip that because it was so close that we were going to do the other book that didn't get the win for April.
Yeah.
And then sometime in April, early on, maybe, or closer to the end of the month of April, we'll be putting up a poll for May.
Okay. So that is the Blood Cell by James Goss, and that is a 12th Doctor book, correct? Yes.
Yep. Correct. 12th Doctor and Clara.
Awesome.
Cool.
I did read that one. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
I will spoil that much.
I started on 3 chapters in. So
and I don't know if it still is. It was last week, but it was $1.99 on Amazon and iBooks. The ebook version of it was. So I haven't checked to see if it is still or not. So if you go to Amazon and search the Blood Cell, which is what I'm doing right now to check, which I should have done earlier,
Well,
But
that's
yeah,
when I owned, so I bought it up with the.
Yep.
I bought it a while back.
Yeah, so Amazon, it is still $1.99, the Kindle edition, and U.S. Amazon. I don't know about Canada or anywhere else. I
can check for
I get
Canada.
emails. Yeah, I get emails with book deals since I still technically work at the library. So I get in on all these cool book things, and I know how to find them. So it's kind of fun. I find when stuff's on sale for free.
Mm.
So, but yeah, the
Best
best
sale.
still. Yep, can't argue. You can't argue with free. Anyone who tries to is.
Yeah, something.
Paperback. I don't even.
Yeah. Come on, Amazon Canada, can work with us here.
Well, because I bought it from iBooks, now it's not telling me the price.
Kindle is $1.99.
Oh, hey, there you go. Canada.
Let me just check.
Yep.
Kobo.
It was iBooks. It was Apple iBooks and Amazon. I didn't think it was anything else, but it could be Kobo. I don't know. But those are the two. Anyway, so Blood Cell.
Woohoo! Alrighty then. So that is it for housekeeping type news. So don't have any feedback this week, although Chauncey threatened to send in
$1.99 on Kobo as well.
Cool.
So.
Oh, awesome! So you have many avenues to get this book for cheap.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Chauncey had threatened to send in really crappy poetry as feedback.
We would have read it out anyway.
I told him we would have, but then he didn't. So maybe next week.
I'm really curious. So Chauncey, send it.
Yeah.
Please, I'm really curious. Send in your crappy poetry.
Yes. Regale us, if you will.
Yes.
That would be awesome. Oh, and just one thing, going back to the news list with Big Finish, that documentary I was referring to is Dr. Forever: The Apocalypse Element. It's a special feature on the Visitation Special Edition that came out in 2013. So I was feverishly looking it up and I finally found it. So that was the documentary I was referring to like 20 minutes ago, or however long it was talking.
It's like traveling the vortex when they're all pondering something and they're like, we have the internet in front of us, use
Go to the
it.
wiki.
Yeah. Go to Google.
Google it.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have Google, use it. So all right.
You can tell where our podcasting roots are.
Yeah. So we're
Mikayla, did you know you were gonna get in on all this craziness when you were invited on the podcast?
Yeah, I had an idea. Well, you had listened to our podcast a little bit by that point, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So she knew what we were like.
Yeah. And she came anyway. That's a good sign.
Bless your heart.
Well, I was just when I realized that this episode was going to be this week, and I'm like texting her like, we're doing it this weekend, when are you free? And so that's why I wanted to record tonight, because she's not free tomorrow night. Yeah, I'm recording my own podcast tomorrow. So.
Fair enough.
Sunday seems to be good.
Yeah. Well, it works out well that
we've got it done, and I don't have to.
Yeah, it works out well since we. Yeah, it works out well since there's no Marvel with Friends this weekend, so that helps.
Serendipity.
Yeah, like I said,
Anyway.
I couldn't have planned it better if I'd tried. So, so we're gonna to stay in Doctor Who. Because unless you've been living under a rock, if you saw our Facebook feed or pretty much any other Facebook feed that had anything to do with Doctor Who,
Tumblr feed, I blogged a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, two days ago, March 26th marked the 10-year anniversary since Rose aired on TV. So New Who, as we call it, new era, has been around for 10 years. And I mean, we're all of under a certain age, so we were too young to know really the wilderness years. But the guys on Traveling the Vortex, like Chrissy mentioned, their most recent episode, they did a really good job of covering the wilderness years, just because Glenn and Sean are old enough to remember the wilderness years and what it was like. So we're not really going to go into that. If you want to hear, what it was like, and, the beginnings of Big Finish and what it was like to watch the TV movie when it originally aired, go listen to that episode of Traveling the Vortex, because the guys did a really good job of covering that. So we're going to focus more on just New Who in general. And I don't think any of us were actually started watching it in 2005, as far as I'm aware, right? No. So we all jumped in after the fact.
Yeah.
So I think that gives us a bit of a more unique perspective, I think, or at least a different perspective. So, but anyway, what you were saying?
Well, we're all like Tennant Smith era converts.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got started in 2010, but I started with Christopher Eccleston, but that was right when Matt Smith was getting started.
Mm-hmm.
So it was...
Yeah, that's kind of my story, too.
Yeah.
I didn't...
I started a year into the Smith era. So...
Yeah, I started in 2007, because I got to university, and everybody was talking about it.
So you're a little bit earlier. So then
Yeah.
So did you watch Matt Smith, or were you involved with the whole Matt Smith, or you change over from David Tennant to Matt Smith, and you were kind of wondering who is this kid?
Yeah.
Or
So
did you?
when I started watching it, it was right after series 3.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
the Donna series was the one I had to actually wait to watch. So, and then the Europe specials.
Oh,
wow.
Oh, the Europe specials.
I was hit and miss, but I really started watching season 4 and then went through mainline seasons 1, 2, and 3. And then had to do the wait with the specials. And
Yeah.
So I'm just curious, what was that?
Wait.
Was it just interminable waiting, sort of like the Sherlock fandom has to wait?
Well, you knew approximately when they were coming, and then a lot of them weren't that good.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that was disappointing, but
And
yeah.
then
By the time
go
David
ahead,
Tennant regenerated, I was quite pleased that Matt Smith was coming in, because I was just waiting for something to pick up again. It wasn't so much Tennant as just oh, can we please have a series?
Yeah.
So it would have been fine if David Tennant continued for another series, as long as it was a series.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
You just wanted something to happen. You were just sick of this holding pattern. Are we gonna do anything? Are we gonna do anything? Nope. Okay.
Yeah.
I would say I can't imagine what that's like, but now that I'm into Sherlock, I can understand what that's like.
Yeah. We did get a little taste of that with when they split season 6 and 7 into 2 parts, where we just have a few episodes, and you gotta wait for so many months.
Yeah. Well, in season
until it comes back again.
season 7 was split in 2 as well.
Yeah.
Although I don't think it was as big a stretch, because that's when I jumped in. I started watching was series 7 started, or it already started, and I kept seeing my friends post on Facebook every Saturday night, time for Doctor Who, and then their commentary. And I remember seeing one of my friends post, for the two that stick out most, as I remember seeing somebody post watching Dinosaurs on a Spaceship, And then I remember the Angels Take Manhattan. They're like saying goodbye to the pawns, and I was like, I don't understand what it is you're talking about, but okay. But it's all, if there are people that I knew we had stuff in common as far as like our likes, like TV shows and other stuff. So I was like, okay, this is something you're obviously into. We have similar tastes, so it may be something I could be into. So I get on Netflix and I start with Rose, and I actually only watched like 2-3 episodes and stopped because it wasn't that interesting. But then Chauncey started watching it on Netflix, and he kept going. And I would see him watching it. And I was like, oh, you're watching that show I started to watch. And, like, I could see it. I couldn't really hear it, but I could see it. And I'm like, well, that looks kind of interesting. Maybe I should give it another shot. And I think I got to Father's Day. And Father's Day is the episode that hooked me. And I mainlined it. So I watched, I think at the time it went through series 6 on Netflix, if not even that. I think it maybe only went through 5 on Netflix. So I watched all of that as far as streaming goes, and we still had Netflix so that we could get the discs along with streaming. So I'm like trying to get the discs at the top of our queue, and they'd be like, we don't have any copies available for like 6 weeks. I'm like, no, I need it now. So I'm like desperately waiting while people are posting on Facebook, what is as the first half of season 7 is winding down. And I think by the time, then they got the first half of 7 up on Netflix. So by the time I got through it, I managed to finish it right before the Bells of St. John aired on TV. So 7B started actually on TV. So I mainlined like 7.5 seasons of Doctor Who within like, I don't know, like 6 months or something like that. So it was quick. So yeah.
Well, Rachel, kind of your experience is kind of interesting because you started it and it wasn't, you didn't think it was quite to your taste, and then you came back and watched it again. You're like, oh, you did like it. So that's kind of like, that's just the essence of Doctor Who is like, if you don't like an episode one week, wait till next week. It's going to be something completely different. Same characters and same core cast, but they could be in the past or in the future, or doing something completely different. And so that's like that for me was one of the big appeals to it, because I started off with Rose just because I was like, I'd seen people talking about it on LiveJournal, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to just see what this is, because 24 had just gotten canceled, or they weren't going to renew it for another season, and I was like, I don't know, I need something to watch. And I was like, oh, Doctor Who, this sounds interesting. I'll give it a try. And I watched Rose because I'm like, well, I'm going to just start at the beginning. Because I know there's, so many years before that, but here I'm going to start with the reboot. And you start at the beginning with these things. And I did, and I was like, Rose was like, okay, that's kind of an interesting episode. That's nice. But then I saw the next time trailer right afterward, and the doctor says, "Welcome to the end of the world," and that was me. That was like, oh my gosh, I need to see this next episode. And I loved the end of the world. It was so good. I finally figured out. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna stick with the show, and until it starts boring me, or until I don't like it anymore. But there was just so much variety and so much to like, and even the stuff I didn't really care for, I was like, I'll just go to the next episode and might like that better. And lo and behold, here I am today.
Yeah.
I actually start watching Doctor Who in 2006. Technically, I saw New Earth when it aired on Space, and thought it was stupid. So I did not go back until everyone was talking about this show. I was like, fine, I'll watch the stupid show. And I started with Rose and discovered that, okay, it wasn't stupid.
Yeah.
I actually read it. Yeah. And then I had to go admit that.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
so it's for, to throw this out here for anybody that wants to answer. Yeah, when you started watching, were any of you aware of, like, that there was history and, like, 7 other doctors in the TV movie before, Run and Rose and all that going into it?
Of the history, but I decided to start like at the beginning of the new series because it was like a beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I was too. Like I looked it up on Wikipedia just to be like, what is this show about? And I saw, it started in 1963, and I'm like, holy crap, how am I going to track down all this? But then I was like, well, I'll just watch the new stuff because that's probably what I'm going to like. And then when I got caught up, I was like, I love this. Now, and I know about, and I'd heard about Big Finish by then, and the books, or I found a bunch of the new series novels with the 10th Doctor, and I read those, and I really loved them, and I was like, but I want more. I want to see more. And so then I started looking for. I was like, okay, well, let me go see what the old series has, and I'd watched the 5 Doctors, and I can't remember how I found it, but I found it somewhere, and I really liked it. And now I hear people say, oh, don't start watching classic Who with the 5 Doctors because that's just awful. I'm like, that's what got me interested because I saw all these different characters, and I wanted to see where they came from and what their stories were.
It's not good if that's like the first ever Doctor Who, but if you come from the background of having seen the new series, then it's a good basis for learning about a bunch of the classic series.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the show is
classic was Stones of Blood.
I think the Aztecs was the first classic one I saw, and that's because that was the first one on the list on Netflix for because I didn't know the show
until I asked for a classic story for my 21st birthday from my sister. Like, my sister called me when I was at work and like, what do you want for your birthday? Oh, classic Doctor Who. And so I told her to just pick one at random, and she picked Stones of Blood.
And that was the one she picked.
Yeah.
That one's
I've heard
Key to Time, isn't
not a bad place for you to start with the classic series. So
that one's in the Key to Time season, isn't it?
Yeah, but it does have some explanation, so it's like you're not just thrown in onto the arc.
Okay.
Because it has the bit at the beginning where they talk about having gotten the first 2 pieces, and now they're going to search for another one, and they're going to Earth, and blah, 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 and it's Romana's first time on Earth, because she's just started traveling with the Doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So, there is some backstory at the beginning, like just enough for you to know what's happening in this particular story.
Mm-hmm.
And the Key to Time, despite being that arc, is individual stories mostly.
Yeah,
like,
it really is.
There's the thread of the key itself, but each story is its own thing.
Yeah.
So you can technically start partway through the Key to Time series, but
and be
I
fine.
think Stones of Blood is the best one for that because it has that explanation. I'm not sure any of the other ones have it to the same degree.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I watched the Key to Time. So I don't remember exactly, but like,
Yeah.
I'll go ahead. And kind of date
go ahead.
myself. I knew about the reboot, but I actually was, sophomore in high school when Dr. Who the movie came out, and I do remember setting that up to tape on VHS, and and lost the VHS tape, and then finding the only way, because I can remember when I was real young on PBS, vague glimpses, wanting to watch Sesame Street on a weekend, thinking, it might be on. Nope, turned on and blue box, guy with curly hair, long scarf, and a tin dog. It kept my interest for a little bit, but I went off to do something else. So, and then I had heard about the 2005 with Chris Eccleston, but then got busy, and then finally caught up, and here I am. I haven't looked back since.
Yeah, it's funny when we all get caught up and we're all like, then we just, you just want to soak in it. Because I remember finishing and like, I want more. I know there's more.
Yeah.
The thing that appealed to me is that there was so much, because I was a fan of Heroes, as I mentioned earlier during the news, and when it got canceled, I was like, I didn't want to. I was devastated, and I was like, and I had been hearing about Doctor Who all through Heroes because of the Christopher Eccleston connection, and I heard and there was like all this history, so I'm like, even if this gets canceled, I'll still have the old stuff to go back to.
Yeah.
So that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because there was so much of it. It wasn't just like a few short seasons, and then if that was canceled, that was it. There was like all this history and all this that I could go back to, and I would. It wouldn't be as. I felt it wouldn't be as big a deal to me. So. Yeah, and I watched Doctor Who because I'd been burned by a favorite show being canceled.
Yeah, before you wanted it to be.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt that way too, because then I went back and like, well, I'm gonna start at the beginning of the classic series, even though I knew there were missing episodes. But I'm like, I'm gonna go as long as I can stand it. And so I went back and watched.
Tried that, and it didn't work.
I got to the Daleks' master plan, and
you got further than Mikayla. You got far further than me. I burned out halfway through the Aztecs.
Oh no!
Really? Oh, and I totally fell in love with that with the first Doctor and the first TARDIS team. They're just I love their dynamic. I love their stories. I love what they do, and it was so new to me, because I was like, because to that point all I'd really done is New Who, where you have the Doctor and one, maybe two companions. Well, no, they hadn't really. To that point, it was the end of season 5, and so the fact that Rory was coming on, I was like, oh wow, there's going to be another companion on the TARDIS. This is great. So then I start watching William Hartnell, and I'm like, oh, there's 3 companions on the TARDIS. This is new. But I kind of liked it, because there was potential for other stories, and I just kept going with it until I got stuck in recon hell, and I was like, you know what, I want to skip ahead and start watching the 5th Doctor, because I like him.
Yeah, because Daleks' master plan is recon hell.
Yeah.
Yes. But and you know what, and it's all
12 episodes, and 9 of them are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of a downer, but I don't know. It's amazing to me that you can have this new Doctor Who, which is very much it's very modern in its storytelling. Like, they have the 45-minute stories, and it takes a lot of, especially RTD years, it takes a lot of cues from Buffy and all these other shows that have gone that have come since 1989 and whatever. But it's still recognizable as the same series. Like, when we had the 50th anniversary, and, we had the Day of the Doctor, we had Adventure in Space and Time, we had Night of the Doctor, we had the 5-ish Doctors, we had all these things, and Light at the End, we had all these things that celebrated all of Doctor Who, these different pieces of it, and it felt like, especially when I watched Night of the Doctor, I'm like, I don't feel like that there is a line of demarcation between classic Who and New Who. I feel like, this is the 8th Doctor, and he's kind of considered a classic Doctor, but he's in a quote-unquote New Who concept of the Time War. He's referencing stuff from Big Finish, and I just feel like it all connects. Just in this, it's just kind of in a weird way, and it's just, I mean, not very many shows can do that. I mean,
and now we're celebrating the 10th anniversary of the reboot, and rightly so. I mean, last year Big Finish celebrated their 15th anniversary as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's fitting that we do this.
There's a thing I saw on Facebook that only Doctor Who can turn 50 and then 2 years later turn 10.
Yeah.
And it also turned 15.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
Fitting for a show that involves time travel.
Wibbly wobbly, timey wimey.
Yep.
Yep.
We can get away with it. So I think you hit the nail on the head though.
It's all the different iterations.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
It's the classic series, it's the new series, it's Big Finish, it's comics and books.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yes.
Blue Peter.
Oh my is right.
Yeah.
Because
Red Nose Day
it's
specials,
a
yeah.
two-part documentary.
Yeah.
It's a two-part documentary about Doctor Who's relationship with the TV show, the children's show, Blue Peter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So part 1's on the Horns of Nymon, and part 2 is on the TV movie. And part 2 deals largely with the wilderness years and how Blue Peter contributed to keeping the memory alive and bringing it to a new generation and stuff. So, if you can, I recommend you check that out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I to piggyback on something you said a little bit ago, Chrissy. I think you hit the nail on the head, and this is something that was brought up several times when I was at Who North America talking to people, that at least for the people that discovered Doctor Who with the new era but have since gone on to watch the classic series, one, because New Who is so self-referential and is constantly giving nods to stuff that happened in the classic series. So, like, it's pure serendipity, but it just so happened that my cousin and her daughter were able to come to Who North America today. And it was a rare weekend where she had her daughter for the weekend, and her husband was away visiting his parents. So they had a mom-daughter day, and they went to the mall. And they came to Who North America, but she has not introduced Erilyn to the classic era yet, because they're still working on watching the new series. They haven't even finished Capaldi's episodes yet. But anytime that the new era references something in classic, and Erilyn is all like, "What are they talking about?" And my cousin Christy, she's all like, "It's classic Who. I will show you, when we have time."
When we get there.
When we get there. So, if they reference something and you get curious, people will go to the classic era. But there were several people that I talked to that they'd started with New Who, found out about the classic era, they finished watching New Who up to whatever point that, it was at the time, and were waiting for new episodes to air, and they needed their fix. So they go to the classic series and start watching it. So.
You know why the Fifth Doctor is my doctor? Is because I watched Time Crash, and I was like, okay, if he's gonna come back, and they reference Nyssa and Tegan and the Master and the Mara in that. It's like, if he's gonna come back and be in New Who, even just this little charity short special thing, I want to watch his episodes. I want to watch his stories, and I want to find out about all these characters that they referenced in that short. And that's what made me want to. After I got to the point in Hartnell's era that I was like, okay, I can't do these recons anymore. I'm like, I'm gonna skip ahead and watch the Fifth Doctor, and I watched from Castor Balva to Caves of Androzani all in a row like that, and that's why I fell in love with the Fifth Doctor, purely because he showed up in the new series, and I loved it. Yeah, I thought he was the best.
I think I had a similar reaction. But I didn't watch his era all in order. But I remember I got the Beneath the Surface box set, which is the Silurians, the Sea Devils, and Warriors of the Deep. and it was through Warriors of the Deep that I noticed that some of his mannerisms were similar to the 10th Doctor, going backwards, but yeah. So, and I think that's what really drew me to the 5th Doctor. Because I already loved the 10th Doctor, and the 5th Doctor was similar to the 10th Doctor, and yeah.
And then you find out about the whole behind story with them and just how they all. Yeah.
Well, the stuff with Peter Davison's daughter with Georgia Moffat was after.
That's just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, that panel that what Peter Davison, I think Sylvester McCoy, it was like last year.
Oh yeah.
Like, what's the weirdest gift a fan has ever given you? A granddaughter. That's like...
that is still probably the best answer at a panel ever.
Probably.
Just look at Sylvester's face.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is true.
Although
and since then, a grandson.
When I got Stones of Blood for my birthday, it was actually partway through. So I was getting new episodes, but I still wanted to know about the history.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Me, I had done my mainlining, and even with 7B being on the air, I still wanted to learn more about the classic era, and I'd started watching because Netflix told me to. Netflix suggested it, and I watched what Netflix had as far as the classic series, and even now that list is actually a lot shorter than when I watched it. They've since removed several stories. But I think about the same time I'd started listening to Traveling the Vortex as well. And the guys really helped open my eyes to the classic series. So I'd watched all of that, and I think through like Wikipedia and listening to Traveling the Vortex, I learned about the TV movie. So I watched the TV movie, and I was like, okay, I've seen all the Doctors now. And then I realized I hadn't seen any of the 6th Doctor because he's not on Netflix. He is completely skipped over. As short as Colin Baker's run was, for whatever reason, Netflix has not bothered to try and get the license or whatever to any of his stories. So they're not there. So I was like, okay, well, I lied. I haven't seen all. I wanted to say I had seen all the Doctors at least once. It was one of those, like, completist things or something that, you know.
Yeah, well, I remember going into where I bought my DVDs and being like, I want to have at least one story per Doctor. Mm-hmm. So I went and I picked out the ones I hadn't gotten yet and bought them. And thankfully the TV movie was out by that time. Otherwise I'd be out of luck with dates.
Yeah.
I will say this, Hulu does have some of season 22 on their classic Doctor Who, so there is some 6th Doctor there.
Yeah. I don't have Hulu. I probably should, but I don't. No. But
they even have the Twin Dilemma on season 21.
That was the 6th Doctor story I watched first, because I was like, oh, that's the first one, so I should probably, if I watch any,
start at the beginning.
Start at the beginning, and that was a mistake. But then listening to Traveling the Vortex, and I think about the time I was into traveling, I was really listening to Traveling the Vortex. I jumped in at whatever episode they were on at the time when I first discovered their podcast. But then there were so many episodes in, I went back and was mainlining their previous episodes while still listening to the new ones that
That's
they're
what I
releasing
did.
every week, which that's a bit confusing. But I think somebody in Facebook had said something about the Trial of the Time Lord story arc. And then the guys in Traveling the Vortex, I think that's what they were doing for that time that, by the time I actually got around to wanting to watch, more of the classic series. So I watched Trial of a Time Lord, and that's what got me hooked on the Sixth Doctor. That's what was like, okay, this guy is like, he's rude and obnoxious and obviously very hot-headed. I love him, and I want to watch more. And Six has been my doctor ever since. So, which is one of the is my reasoning why I have enjoyed Capaldi's Doctor so far, is because people are like, well, he's dark and he's grumpy and he's not the nicest person. I'm like, well, my doctor's kind of that way too. So I think I see a little bit of Six in Capaldi, and that's why I'm like, he's not that bad. He just he needs a nap and a cuddle, and
and that's it.
And it all will be good. So.
And Colin Baker even said it when he was at Salt Lake Comic-Con last September. He even said that people were asking him how what he was trying to do with his doctor, and he was all like, "You've all seen what Peter Capaldi's doing," and people were like, "Yeah, that's what I was trying to do. Only they did it better, Capaldi did it better, or something like that."
Yeah.
And I was just like, and I sat there and nodding my head like, "This is what I've been saying, guys. This is exactly what I was like, I have been validated. We can go on."
Yes.
Go on.
The Lord President has spoken.
Yes, our captain has spoken.
Yep.
No, it's interesting. Like we're here trying to talk about New Who and how we got into it and celebrate the 10th anniversary of New Who, and we end up talking about classic Who anyway.
It's just because there's so many people that want to put this solid line of demarcation between the two eras, and you can't. As much as you want. I mean, you could watch nothing but New Who and never watch Classic Who, and you would be fine. But just because the show references itself and its past so much that if you
all the Classic Who references in New Who are like little treats sprinkled throughout, like the miniscope reference in Robot of Sherwood.
Yeah. So, or I mean, pick an episode, and there's probably something. I mean, like the 50th, and
oh goodness,
that is reference. That is referent.
I mean, that's reference city, but I mean something like the time-space telegraph that the Doctor uses to talk to Kate when they're in the Black Archive and they can't lie on the TARDIS in the Black Archive, unless you've seen that Tom Baker episode with the Zygons.
Well, and it's like a little treat. It's like a little treat for those who have seen the classic series, like in is it Impossible Astronaut, where they go where they have Canton, Delaware, in the TARDIS, and he's like, oh my gosh, Can't Never Delaware the Third, and they walk out of the TARDIS, and he's like all stunned, and he's like, it's bigger on the inside, and 11 goes, Braveheart, Canton. I'm like, it's like Braveheart, it's a Doctor thing, and I'm like, it's a treat for those of us who know the classic series for those things, but if you haven't seen it, no big deal. It's just the Doctor being the Doctor.
If curiosity doesn't get the best of you, then you're fine. But some of us were like, "Ooh, what is that reference?" And you're like getting on Tumblr and Wikipedia.
All the time the references are done so well that if you don't know it's reference, you don't even know it's reference.
Because Mikayla doesn't have much Classic Who.
When I burned out on Classic Who, I really burned out on Classic Who.
So she's been introduced to a few stories through Web of Queer, but other than that, she's not seen much.
And here we are talking about Classic Who. Sorry,
it's okay. So the way we're doing is we're going through kind of all the doctors at once, so we're trying to spread it out so we don't end up with a bunch of
Tom Baker at the end.
yeah, pretty much. So I'm not going to go watch classic Who now because I don't want to spoil myself for podcasts. So because I'm two of us haven't seen much. Jessica's seen a bit more than me, but not a lot. So we're the newbies. We're the ones who had the first impressions. And I might have burned out on watching the Aztecs a second time.
Well, because you were flying when
I was on
when they recorded.
Last minute, I ended up on
a
last minute I ended up on an airplane before that recording, so I didn't end up participating in the Aztecs review, but I never actually finished it.
No.
Oops.
It'll be there when you come back to it. That's the nice thing about it.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
It's always going to be there for you.
Yeah. So.
Do you need a copy?
Yeah.
Do you have a copy?
Yeah, I just need to finish it.
Yeah.
Because I have, if you need to borrow any of my collection, you can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, even the Aztecs. That's a story that gets referenced in the new series. I think that I can't remember where it is, but the doctor's like, yeah, something about hot chocolate and getting engaged. Yeah, it's another one of those references that you can figure out what it's referencing, or you can just move on, and that's the end of it. So, another thing that came up and could be a little interesting to talk about with the new series is, it's not fair to compare the technical quality of the new series to the classic series, because you really have to take the classic series for what it was, the time period that it was made, the technology available to them for special effects and that sort of thing.
The budget too.
Yeah, the budget too,
and
but
Invasion
it's
of the Dinosaurs versus dinosaurs on a spaceship.
Yeah, but do you think that that is I mean, I'm sure you probably all think that it's a plus that, the budget and the technology available to them is available to them. Do you think, and I've heard some people say this, that they think sometimes that's a hindrance to the storytelling? Because now they can do so much with special effects.
Well, I don't think they let it get too out of hand.
Yeah.
Like, I point to Day of the Doctor, which was like, special effects extravaganza for Doctor Who, and they did it in 3D, and they had it was bells and whistles, they no holds barred, they threw it all out there for the 50th anniversary, and yet the story is still very well done. The story is very well told. It fits within the continuity. I mean, yes, they had that little bit where they, leave the Zygons and the humans, talking. But to me, that's not part of the story. The part of the story is the War Doctor seeing the consequences or potential consequences of his actions. Learning how to deal with that, and what is he going to choose? And even the 10th and 11th Doctor realizing, hey, we can go back and we can change this thing that we've done. And so there's a lot of really good, meaty storytelling there, and they just augment it with the special effects. And that's just one example. That's a huge example because it's a 50th anniversary special. But they still do that. I mean, I even look at in Series 8, this series we just had, where I think the only episode that I liked them all. There was like two that I was just sort of meh on, but that's because the others around it were so good, and I was like, yeah, this one didn't wow me, but I don't hate it. But the story, the storytelling is still very, very, very good. I mean, I was apprehensive about going back and watching Classic Who just because I knew some of it was in black and white, and they talked about wobbly sets, and maybe some of the characters weren't very well fleshed out, but I mean, I can still appreciate the storytelling for what it was, and the storytelling. Okay, let me back up. I can appreciate the episodes and the production values for what they are, knowing this is in the 70s and the 80s, and when I watch a movie from 1970, I don't expect it to be as flashy as, say, the Avengers or anything like that. but I can understand that it was they had different technology available to them, and this may have been state of the art. Like even watching Star Wars, the first Star Wars movie, I look at it, I'm like, these effects this would be done so differently. And it's the story that brings me in. And I know I'm rambling, and now I'm like, saying again. But yeah, my point is, the storytelling has always been there. The special effects are just icing on the cake.
Yeah.
And if they're not good, I don't care. Warriors of the Deep special effects suck, but the story is really, really good. I love the story for Warriors of the Deep. It's just there's so much there to talk about. Yeah. Even if the Merca looks like crap.
Well, the concept of the Merca is really fascinating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It just execution not so much. But you know what? I'm not watching Doctor Who for special effects. When they do get them, great. If not,
yeah.
The storytelling is still good.
It's definitely for the story and the characters.
And you think about some of the episodes that have been really well received that had very minimal special effects. Like, with the most recent series, we had Listen, where they're literally making us frightened of someone with a blanket on their head.
Yes. And it's the direction and atmosphere, and oh my gosh, I'm going to say it, balls to the wall acting from Peter Capaldi.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. I'm like, I look at this, I'm like, this is why this man is the Doctor. This is exactly why.
The only reason,
even in the classic series, they played it totally serious. Like, they didn't play it up, like, at least in the beginning. In later series, there was some scenery chewing, but but that was mostly from, like, guest actors. The supporting cast, it was always serious.
Yeah.
And, like, they actually, like, where they played it like they actually believed the story they were telling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, even
contributed hugely to Classic Who and how good it's remembered.
I mostly ask that just because, some of the people I talk to today, especially the ones with children, a few of them hadn't introduced their kids to Classic Who, or had tried and it didn't take because the kids got bored, because it wasn't because it's not flashy enough. It's in the classic series, especially, you go to, like the first and second Doctor with it being in black and white, and it's a lot of dialogue instead of action because they did not have the budget to do a lot of action.
TV was made, it was a stage play that they broadcasted onto your TV. It is really what it is. So, like, if you ever watch a stage play, that's how it is.
Doctor Who was filmed in the early days as live. So it would be different.
Yeah.
Honestly, for some of the classic stories I've seen, I've gotten bored. Which is when my podcast notes turn into sarcastic commentary.
And it's okay if
that's something else.
Not your.
They have notes. We don't have notes. We have the news, and then we just talk.
Yeah.
Notes.
What are those? Yeah, I know. It's half the time I'm trying to remember people's names.
I tried taking notes for when we were talking about Once Upon a Time, but then I got hooked into
the show and just forgot about them.
Yeah.
Well, I do tend to have more notes the more bored I am.
You start doodling in the margins.
Yeah. That's good.
I don't take notes. I keep thinking that I should, especially when like Doctor Who's on and I'm watching a new episode. I'm like, I should probably take notes so I can like compose feedback to traveling the vortex or whatever.
Yeah.
But I never get around to actually taking notes.
Well, for the new series especially, I don't take notes first watch. I take notes second watch. Classic Who, I'm not putting myself.
I usually watch them 2 or 3 times in a day because I watch when it first airs on BBC, and then another time like on iPlayer and stuff, just to get everything and stuff, like in case I miss something or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then I watch it in the evening with my dad.
Yeah, I don't put myself through watching classic shows stories twice.
Me, it just depends on the story. So I'll watch something like Mark of the Rani, over and over, and I have, because I love the story so much. Even though again, visually it may not be the most compelling, but I love the story.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mark of the Rani is one of my favorites.
Yeah. So, but then there are some in the new series, there are some that, I'm in the same mindset that it really doesn't matter, how much money they throw at it for like special effects and costumes and all. It's all about the story. And there are some that I will watch over and over again. I've watched Dave the Doctor, I don't know how many times, because the story is just so good. And then there are some where the story is good, but it's good in a not good feels way, like Army of Ghosts and Doomsday. I watched it once. I was traumatized because of my ship sunk, and I have not been able to watch it again. And it's not because it's a bad story. It's a really good story, but it's a really sad story. And I can't watch it because it makes me feel emotions I do not want to feel.
That's why I haven't watched Angels Take Manhattan. I will happily watch The Power of Three over and over again.
Yeah.
And I love it. And Angels Take Manhattan I enjoyed, and I liked it, but I can't handle that ending.
Yeah.
It's just... Oh.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And that is a testament to Stephen Moffat and his team of writers. As much as people moan and complain about Stephen Moffat and his writing, I mean, he doesn't write every single episode. He writes a lot of the episodes, but he does not write every single episode. So you can't, there's people that like want to lynch him for what he's, done as far as being showrunner.
Well, there were people who wanted to lynch RTD at the time.
Excuse me.
I think it's just sort of a thing that happens when you're showrunner is people get mad at you and don't like what you're doing, and you must go and want to change. And then after you do leave, everyone's like, "Oh, we want him back."
Yeah.
I think it's
I would lay at his feet as a showrunner, but it's far from. I hate everything he's done, which some people seem very keen to just like burn it all.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah. And not everything is everybody's taste, and and that's the joy of Doctor Who is if you don't like what's going on right now, wait a little while. It's going to change.
It's kind of like the weather.
It may be to your taste later. Yeah, it's like the weather. Wait 5 minutes. It's going to change.
Yeah.
That'll be something you do like.
Yeah.
Which is the joy, the trick of it, and why it's been around so long. Why we're having this conversation right now.
Yes. And with any luck, having this conversation, 5-10 years from now.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
the show is celebrating 60 years and New Who is celebrating, 20 years. Yeah. And Big Finish is celebrating 25 years, you know?
I'm not sure I want to think that far in the future.
Yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's astonishing to think that we could get to that point, and then, you know, like for a split second, I'm like, do I really want that? But then I'm like, yes, because I don't want Doctor Who to go away.
Yeah.
And it's not like it will be in any way recognizable in terms of the current tone and actors in 10 years. It's going to reinvent itself several times between now and then.
Oh, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just look how much it's reinvented itself in the past 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at see how much it's reinvented itself in the past year. New Doctor, new tone of storytelling. I mean, like we watched the 11th Hour for Friday Night Who a couple weeks ago, and I'm just like, okay, this is still a Stephen Moffat thing, but it is so different to what we have now. I'm like, this is like I cannot imagine Peter Capaldi in this story, and yet he is playing the exact same character that Matt Smith is playing,
Mm-hmm.
just in a very in a different story, in a different tone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I can't imagine that.
The Doctor still being the same character, but he's got different personalities, and one of the things with the Doom Coalition is there's apparently a Time Lord who retains each personality as he regenerates. And he's in his 11th incarnation, so he's got 11 different personalities at the same time. So, and that's the major plot point in Doom Coalition. So, I was reading about Doom Coalition earlier because it sounds really fascinating.
Okay, Big Finish, you're getting more of my money. I will probably be living under a bridge at some point, but dang it.
You'll be entertained while under your bridge.
I will be entertained while under the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think I want to get caught up on like Gallifrey and Dark Eyes before I get to that point, because it is in case of crossover and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, there's always potential for that.
Yeah.
Because they're talking about something I have no idea what this is.
Gallifrey in the first season had a bunch of references to like Zagreus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember that. I was listening to it. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I've listened to Zagreus by now.
There's so much stuff about like Charlie and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're kind of on the subject of Big Finish, I want to put this out there, because they are doing a unit story with Big Finish with Kate Stewart, with Gemma Redgrave. Her name.
Unit Dominion, I think it was.
Unit Dominion. So, with that being said, and with Big Finish just getting their license renewed, do we think that they're ever going to have license to do New Who audios?
I expect so. I hope so.
Eventually.
I would hope so. Like, I want, when they were filming the 50th, David Tennant and Matt Smith came up with, several ideas for 10-11 multi-Doctor stories, and I feel the place for those is Big Finish.
Mm-hmm.
Once they get the New Who license, they can do those 10-11 multi-Doctor stories and, just whatever.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember when Night of the Doctor came out and everybody was like, oh my gosh, Big Finish is canon. And Stephen Moffat gave a little interview or talked to a press something. And there was a quote from him that he said, he purposely has these gaps, especially with 11 and 12, where Big Finish could put stories in, and he's even told people who he's casting companions and stuff.
The 600-year gap in 11's run is for Big Finish.
It's for Big Finish to play around in, and he even said when I cast people, I even say, look, Big Finish is going to come calling for you when you're done here, so you're never done with Doctor Who. So I like that there's that. The 200 years at the end of Series 6 and the 100 years after between 6 and 7 and
whatever else.
Yeah.
Is all put there specifically to make room for Big Finish.
Yep. That's what I gather. I don't know that
That makes me feel better about those gaps.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest fan of the going. He's away for hundreds of years, and he comes back, and like, is this really? Are these few episodes really the most important things that have happened in the past few hundred years? But knowing that there are important things that have happened, they're just not on screen. They're going to maybe, hopefully, be on Big Finish.
Or in a
Makes
book.
me feel so much better.
Or in a comic book.
Or comic book,
Comic books too, yeah. I've been reading the Titan comics, and I can talk about my advanced copy of the Ninth Doctor if you guys want, because I know it was supposed to be out by now, but it's not.
Oh. Well, give us a spoiler-free rundown.
Yeah.
If you can.
Well, you already know it's 9 and Rose and Jack.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to this one planet, and it's supposed to be like the height of this really, the Doctor describes it as a period of unparalleled scientific enlightenment and artistic freedom and stuff, but the planet is gone. Like, it's rubble around them. And then there's this ship that comes in and captures them, and then that ship is attacked by other people, and there's like
Almost kind of like
time travel
Warsy
stuff. Like, so it's like all this temporal technology, temporal hardware,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff, and stuff. And the cliffhanger is wow. Like the end of the issue is just.
So it's worth picking up.
It is worth picking up. I'm really looking forward to see where this goes.
Awesome.
So
I'm glad that we're getting
the artwork is decent. Storyline's interesting. Characterization is pretty spot on of the three leads. So
That's always good.
look for it in your local comic book store Wednesday, April 1st. Or if you get digital, then look for it there. But yeah, so yeah, it was like I was really excited to get my hands on it when I saw that it was going to be at Fan Expo, because it's like advanced copy.
Yeah. Special stuff.
Special stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's just fun that we're getting, the stuff with the Ninth Doctor.
Yeah.
That as much as the history of Eccleston with Doctor Who, that he's not walked away from it completely. So he's not embracing it like the others are, but he's not completely cut himself off from it either, which is good that he's allowed. He's
still giving permission for his image to be used, like for the comics, for Doctor Who Legacy.
Yeah.
So I mean he's not totally I don't want to talk about it, but he's kind of one of those guys that's like, I'm doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So
It's a
Which
thing
is
that
fun because
happens.
we get them in like Marvel.
Yeah.
Speaking of Marvel with friends.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Serendipity.
It's
We
gonna be in
plan
our.
this stuff, we swear.
Yes, absolutely.
I
With
swear
my
we were
dying
totally,
breath,
completely
I was,
lying to you.
yeah.
We're like the doctor.
Yep. I planned it
Hope
that
your
way,
mom
really.
replies. And so do we, to an
Yep.
extent.
So, alrighty then. Well, I think we should probably wrap up here.
Yeah.
Getting long in the tooth again here, so. But
Well, let me just say this, just to kind of close out. Without New Who, I wouldn't have gotten into Doctor Who at all. Wouldn't have gotten into classic series. Wouldn't have started looking for podcasts. Wouldn't have found Traveling the Vortex. Wouldn't have made friends with you guys. Wouldn't be on this podcast. So, if for that alone,
Thank you, Doctor Who.
thank you, Doctor Who.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Doctor Who.
Yes,
Thank you for the
absolutely.
friendships. Thank you for
Absolutely. To all
everything
of the above.
else. Yep. It was worth it for that.
yeah. We're all very thankful. Our wallets may not be, but we're very thankful.
My wallet can get over it.
Do you know what? It's just money. So money will come and go. The friendships last forever, and that's what's
Very
awesome.
true.
So
Yes, extremely.
yeah. So alrighty then. So if you've for any of our new listeners, which hopefully there are a few, you can find all of our stuff at the fiveishfangirlspodcast.blogspot.com. One of these days we will get an actual URL that doesn't have the mouthful, but that's down the line.
If
Yes.
you want to help that come sooner, support us on Patreon.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. If you can
find us on Facebook.
yeah. So,
Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram.
yeah. We're out there. Oh.
And links to all of the above, I think, are on the blogspot.
Yeah, they're on our page. The link to Patreon is on there. The link to take you to iTunes is on there. If you've liked what you've heard, if you could go on to iTunes and rate us with their little star rating and leave a review, that would be fabulous. Because iTunes responds really well to reviews, especially positive ones. So if
Even if they're negative, we still
Any
Yeah.
well, it responds well to any reviews, but
yeah.
positive ones are always a plus.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you got a few minutes, rate and review us. Go like our Facebook page. Subscribe to us on YouTube.
Twitter,
Yeah. Follow us on Twitter and all that fun stuff. So we're everywhere.
We don't have current
And-
followers on
and
Tumblr, and it's kind of it's a bit disheartening actually.
We'll get there.
Because I manage the Tumblr and I have 14 followers. I hope that's not indicative of how many listeners we have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I think you got more than that.
yeah. So
Yeah.
this,
And a big thanks to Mikayla for joining us.
yes.
I hope you found it worthwhile.
Yeah, thanks
So,
for having me.
you,
And you can
Yeah,
tell our
anytime.
listeners where they can find you.
So I'm part of the Web of Queer podcast. That's the webofqueer.com, and that's got links to our Twitter and Tumblr and everything. That's probably the best place to find me.
Ruby, are you guys on iTunes?
Yes, we are on iTunes.
Yeah, I've been listening to the Web of Queer, downloading it on my podcast app.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
it's a
same
bit
here.
behind, but
Awesome. So yeah, this has been a fun show. It's always fun when we have guests. So. And we'll definitely have to have you back in the future here. So
yeah.
talk more Who, because we sure can.
Oh yeah.
We can talk Who till the cows come home.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So, and she lives local to me, so she can come over whenever and
Hang out and
join it. hang
chat.
out, join the podcast, whatever.
Cool. Awesome. Well, all right. Well, if we don't have anything else, then we shall sign off for this week.
This is Brittany and Flipcan saying goodnight.
This is Chrissy from Salt Lake City via Delta. Good night.
This is Violet from Fairfield saying good evening.
This is Mitch and Mikayla saying goodnight from Kitchener, Ontario.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Nice to meet you. Now run for your life. Okay, so I am here with Keith, who is one of the co-owners of Who North America. So first of all, thank you for inviting me here. So this is very, very cool.
Well, we're glad you're here, and we thank you for keeping up with the fan groups and keeping them on top of what's going on in the world of Doctor Who, and also for plugging us the numerous times.
You're very welcome. So, give our listeners the Cliff Notes version of how this all came to being here.
Okay. Well, Who North America, I started watching Doctor Who in probably the very late 70s and early 80s, back on PBS stations. Tom Baker was the doctor back then, and actually Tom Baker was the first doctor to really take off in the United States. There were a couple stations that actually started with John Pertwee, but it was very rare to see Doctor Who prior to Tom Baker. But Tom Baker was incredibly popular. The sad thing was back then, for the longest time, you couldn't find any products related to Doctor Who. Now, after a while, books started showing up in the bookstore, and most of those were the novelizations. Target novelizations, Pinnacle did a handful of books. Then there were some big books that around about when Doctor Who had about 25 years, or 20 or 25 years, that you started getting some bigger books. But there were really no collectibles, toys, or action figures unless you went to a convention, and then you might be able to find some items from people who brought some stuff from the UK. Unfortunately, it was so expensive you could never really afford it unless you were you had a lot of money on you and you could get the high-end collectibles. So about the late 90s, when the internet started taking off, I started looking to see if I could find any of the UK companies that were producing Doctor Who items. And I started contacting them, and one of the first ones I contacted was a company named DePaul, and they were the ones doing the action figures. And I said, do you have anyone bringing them in the United States? I'd like to get a hold of some. And they said, no one's bringing it in the United States right now. People are pretty much considering Doctor Who at the time kind of a dead product line. So there was very little availability. I said, well, I'd like to get some figures. And I'd been doing a website at the time that just was reviewing the episodes and had some places where people could comment and talk and chat. And so I was really having a lot of fun doing that. And when I got the Doctor Who action figures in from DePaul, I decided I'd put them on the website to see if anybody was interested in buying them. And within a week, I had to buy more. That's how much demand there was, because it had been off they just simply weren't available anyplace.
The wilderness years.
Yeah. You could, if you went to I went to my local comic shop one time to see if they had any Doctor Who products. And they had one case of old Doctor Who comics that they actually had in the back room. They no longer even had them out on the shelf because nobody's interested in these. And that's just how you couldn't find anything at the time. And so, that was actually the beginning, and that was the late 90s. Since then, when the new series kicked in, we had already been in 7 years doing Doctor Who product. And all the new lines that were coming, we just instantly jumped on them, and we got a larger space, and then we had to get another larger space, and just kind of grew because all of a sudden the new series was taking off with the new generation of fans. So that was where it really took off for us. So now we've been 10 years as a corporation, but we've been in existence longer, since 1998. So.
Wow, very cool. Yeah, I didn't even know you guys existed till 2013. So I didn't start watching though until like early 2013, anyway, late 2012. So I'm actually fairly green when it comes to as far as time-wise. But I've crammed a lot of it.
Well, and so, we didn't do a lot of advertising. I mean, we've done maybe one ad in Doctor Who magazine at one time. We did an ad on the back of the very first issue of Doctor Who Insider. We had maybe a couple pages in a couple of different books, where we either advertised ourselves or somebody did a complete write-up on us in one of their books. And then we had an Indie Star article that kind of went viral and got a lot of attention.
I remember that.
A year ago. But it's been our goal to try to run the business via word of mouth, because we've kind of grown slowly with this. In other words, we've never tried to go into debt with the business. We've tried to be very careful and cautious in how we do things, as far as because we're such a very niche market.
Yes.
We're only really dealing with one television show.
Yeah.
And that's very rare, because most places, like if you go, I think a lot of people probably are aware that, Hot Topic has carried a lot of Doctor Who items. Well, Hot Topic carries whatever's popular at the moment, and when Doctor Who passes, they'll just drop it and go to something else.
Yeah.
But we've been Doctor Who. We intend to stay Doctor Who, because that's where we want to. We want to be more than just selling products. We want to be a kind of a base for fans,
yes.
Where it's a destination you can come.
Yeah.
That's why we do the monthly open houses, and those have been really good, because you end up getting a couple hundred people coming in. And it's not always the same people. A lot of times it's different people. We always have a lot of first-time visitors who never heard us before. And then I guess a lot of them never come back after they visit and meet us.
Yeah.
I hope they do that. But no, we hope they come back, because we want them to keep
They got exterminated as they were walking out the door.
By the Daleks all through the shop. So. But no, we want people to come back. We want people to feel like there's a place that caters to them, for the serious fan, because, Doctor Who is, there's a big catering in a lot of different places to Star Wars fans. There's big catering to Star Trek fans. But there's almost no catering to Doctor Who fans, although a few places will carry some products, but it's not like, hey, we're here for the Doctor Who fans. We're here for just for that group, and that's what we are. We're trying to be that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. I mean, especially being here in the Midwest, it seems like here that we're not, especially Indianapolis, it doesn't seem like we're quite the hotbed for nerd culture quite. I mean, we're getting there. I mean, Gen Con's been here for years and years and years, but we're starting to get more cons and stuff and bringing people in. But this is, here in Indiana, it seems like we're still very sports focused, and those of us that are, well, I am a sports fan, so I'm just as happy going to a Colts game as I am coming here. But for the ones that are not basketball or football minded, that having a place to come and congregate and meet fellow fans and get your hands on product is very important, I think, for nerd culture in general, I think. So, because it used to be back in the day, you had your comic book shops, and that was about it. So, but
and I grew up in a small town in central Illinois, and I was out in the middle of a cornfield most of my life. So, whatever good television shows or my Atari 2600 at the time, these are the things that kept me company. And like I said, Doctor Who meant a lot to me growing up. It was funny, because where I lived, I could actually pull in the Decatur, Illinois station, but I could also pull in Chicago. And because I could pull in more than one PBS station from where we lived, I could watch Doctor Who 7 days a week, which,
nice.
Monday through Fridays, I got to watch the half-hour broadcasts of the individual episodes that were coming out of Decatur. And then on Chicago station on, I believe it was Saturday, they were showing a full story. So in other words, if it was a 4-part story, they would show a full 4-part Doctor Who story. And then Sunday I was pulling another station. I don't remember which station that was, unfortunately. But it was also, I believe, showing another full story. But it was an entirely different station. So, I was getting Doctor Who every day of the week. And it was one of those things that it became the show I liked most of all. It was one of those things that, because there was so much to it. And the nice thing about, if you go back to the 80s, it's like, you started with Tom Baker, and when you got through Tom Baker and everything like that, you were still finding there was so much more you'd never even gotten to, because they hadn't touched on the first 3 Doctors yet. And so all these different shows from the past, you were like, when do we get to see these? When do we get to see these? And for years, even after you'd seen everything that had been broadcast, there were all these missing episodes. And how do you get to see the missing episodes? And so people started finding these photographs, and they found the audios, and they started putting the audios and the photographs together in videotape. And they'd swap videotapes around. You'd be watching these restoration things. So there was always this hunt to see new episodes. But that's the nice thing about Doctor Who, is there's so much there. There's such a huge catalog. There's so much. I mean, you can spend years trying to get into Doctor Who and never touch a single one of the books yet, or touch a single one of the audios yet. And once you step into the audio line, I mean, there's hundreds of audios. I mean, you can spend days upon days on end just listening to Doctor Who stories on audio that are full cast dramas. It's not just, here's a guy reading a book to you. Here's all the actors they've got back together in the studio with all the original music, and it's all taking place, and they're all in character, and they're all running down corridors just like before, and new locations, finding new things, and that's the exciting thing about Doctor Who, is no matter, how big a fan you think you are, you've only scratched the surface. I mean, I've been in this for years, and people ask me all the time, did you read this book? No. Did you listen to this audio? No. I've listened to a lot of the audios, but that one I haven't. I mean, there's always
Big Finish needs. We had this conversation on our last episode when Big Finish announced the three, they're getting ready to hit their 200th story in the main line, just the main line, not counting like the Gallifrey and the Eighth Doctor Adventures and all that. Just the main line. They're getting ready to hit number 200, and they announced that they're doing 198, 199, and 200 are going to be the fifth, sixth, and seventh Doctors, but with companions from the first, second, and third Doctor era. Wow! And we were all like, Big Finish needs to slow down because my wallet cannot keep up.
Well, and it's the funny thing about that's probably Big Finish is the company that put us on the map in the sense that we started with toys, and we were doing good with toys, but it wasn't until they started doing the monthly audios that we probably started picking up our large, steady fan base that actually enabled us to be a business. Because toys, you can sell a few toys to people, but then the toy market just starts slowing down. People got the toys. There's not much else. So try to find new people to get the toys. But the monthly audios and Doctor Who magazine probably are the two things that have kept us in business, because every time they're monthly. They're there every month. And as for a business like us, unless you've got new product coming out hitting the market, you can't keep on doing it, because at some point you hit the point where it's like, okay, we've saturated the market, everybody has it, and time to move on to the next thing. And we try to stay in it, and by people actually supporting the audio lines and supporting Doctor Who magazine when it comes out on that monthly basis, that keeps us in business. And we want to actually put a plug in for both of them, because the more you support Big Finish and the more you support Doctor Who magazine, the more you keep a company like us going and able to keep on in business.
Okay, then we take back what we said about Big Finish slowing down.
All right.
I'm just gonna have to work harder and make those paychecks bigger.
All right. Well, I've been told that I need to get back.
Okay.
So I'm going to.
You do have a business to run,
and you've got some people to interview next, I'm sure.
Yes.
And
Well, thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
All right.
It's been fun talking about the companies.
All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Any and all movies, books, games, and other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by their respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied.